And while it might seem like something only investors or large companies are involved in, the stock market actually plays a role in the broader economy that affects all Canadians, from job creation to personal wealth building opportunities. Canada's stock exchange, particularly the Toronto Stock Exchange, is one of the most active in the world and home to many of the country's leading businesses. But how exactly does the stock exchange help grow the economy? Can it support a stronger middle class? And what role does it play in a democratic society? Brendan Caldwell, director at Caldwell Securities Limited, joins us now to unpack this. Brendan, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Theresa. Let's do it.
Now, Canada has a functional stock exchange. How could Canadians use the stock exchanges to grow the economy?
Well, when I say functional, I think I would take it to mean by that the value of the companies listed on the exchange is actually even bigger than the Canadian economy. It's not a bad yardstick by which to measure whether a country is got much broader participation in the wealth creation or whether that wealth is concentrated. So countries like, I don't know, Mexico or Russia or China, most of the economy is privately held, or at least not held publicly by the broader population, by investors generally. But in Canada, the United States, even India, the market capitalization of the exchanges is actually bigger than the economy, which is one way of measuring whether there is a broad participation. And why it's important is the more people are participating in the stock exchange, the greater the benefits of wealth creation. We have a country like Mexico, which is famous for its 100 families, or Bermuda with 40 thieves, which is the 40 families that really own most of the island. You have wealth concentration in a very, very few hands. But if you think of places like Russia, you think of oligarchs, where the wealth is not broadly dispersed, but highly concentrated. So the more people participate in the stock exchange by buying either directly in owning shares of companies or indirectly through mutual funds or exchange traded funds, the more they're participating, the more broadly the wealth creation engine benefits society.
And how do stock exchanges create a stronger middle class?
Oh, well, they are profoundly democratic institutions, exchanges are. Probably the most democratic institution that the world has ever come up with, because they allow for the free expression of capital. So if an entrepreneur has an idea, it's a good idea, and he takes it to the stock exchange. It could be a mine, it could be a technology idea, it could be a healthcare idea, it could be a wonder drug, it could be lots of different things. He takes it to the stock exchange in the form of a corporation, and people vote with their money on that idea. Now, if that idea is good enough, if it's the next Shopify, to use a Canadian example, that goes from an idea to a multi-hundred-billion-dollar corporation, and people are able to participate along with the entrepreneur with that idea, then not only does he get rich, but everybody is better off around him. And if my success as an investor is predicated on some great entrepreneur. I mean, think about a Steve Jobs, God rest his soul, or a Mark Zuckerberg, or a Bill Gates, or even an Elon Musk. To the extent that they're doing well predicates my doing well, it does create for a much greater degree of social cohesion, because otherwise you don't have an opportunity as an individual to buy into a national dream, buy into the Canadian dream, if you will.
And what is the significance of a stock exchange in a democracy?
Well, the middle class actually has the biggest stake in the survival of democracy. And it was really the middle class in United States that got that going. Responsible government here in Canada was the work of the middle class. The very wealthy would prefer an oligarchy of some description. You see that in places like Russia. In the very poor would rather people just take care of them. So some sort of socialist something is better for them. But the middle class is the one that has the biggest interest in having a middle class. So in having a democracy. So if you can build a middle class through allowing them to own the nation's best ideas, in the case of Canada, to own pieces of our telecommunications companies, our banks, our railroads, our mines, our airlines, our technology and healthcare companies, our industrial companies. If individuals own a stake in all that, that creates wealth, because ownership creates wealth. Having money in the bank doesn't create wealth. It just sits there, especially with today's interest rates. But owning a piece of a business over time, with all the ups and downs of the stock market, that money can grow.
And people often refer to exchanges as a casino. Is this true?
I think exchanges and casinos are really the comparison is very superficial. Both investors and gamblers are predicting a certain outcome, and they put their money down based on that outcome, and both can get very emotional. But I think that's where the comparison ends. With a casino, the odds are always with the house. The longer you bet, the more likely you are to lose. Investing is completely the opposite. The longer you invest, the more likely you are to make money. Anything could happen in the short term, but as the economy grows and the stock market grows, and just look at the history of stock market indices over the last number of decades. Oh, there have been ups and downs, but even the biggest bear markets, even the biggest corrections, don't look like much with the benefit of time. And the other thing is that casinos they're a zero-sum game. Nobody net makes any money, except perhaps the casino, or what is to say, for any winner, there is a loser. Stock exchanges, again, are the opposite. I can buy a stock, it can do well. I can sell it to somebody else, it can continue to do well. Wealth actually gets created. Casinos create nothing except misery.
And what stands out most to you in the strong companies that you choose to invest in?
Well, every investor has their own way of tackling it, and there's not a single right way. What we try and do is have some complementary strategies that work best in each market. For example, in Canada, we focus on companies that are showing positive momentum, both in terms of price and earnings. With the median analyst, if she re-rates a company higher, if there's some catalyst for that company to start doing well, so we focus on the momentum, and then we combine that with value, so that the companies that we think have good fundamental characteristics that the investing world is just starting to notice, just at that, well, most Canadian of analogies, the curve of the hockey stick. In the US, we tend to focus on companies that have the ability to grow their dividends. Dividend growers just by far outperform over time in the US compared to anything else. And internationally, we're really partnered with a New York firm called Lazard to invest in companies that are building out the infrastructure, both traditional infrastructure and the modern infrastructure that'll power the electronic economy that is already seeing burgeoning around the world.
Now, we do just have about a minute left, but as I mentioned earlier, China and the U.S. have agreed to kind of take a step back with their tariffs, and economists are saying that this could really help avoid an American recession. Do you agree with this?
Well, I agree that free trade has been the best thing for the world, and we've seen in my lifetime hundreds and hundreds of millions of people dragged out of poverty by the fact that the free flow of goods and services across borders has helped so many people. So yes, I think a lower tariff environment is good for all economies, and a free trade environment is the best world of all. So it is heartening to hear that China and the US is getting that sorted out. I've long felt that we should not overreact to Mr. Trump's proclamations, because, like the weather here in Toronto in the spring, just wait. Something new will come along that you like better.
Brendan, thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you, Theresa.